All right, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go over some must-know stuff that you really need to have if you're going to be investing in cryptocurrency and using any sort of crypto wallet or exchange or anything like that. Before I go any further, I'm just going to throw out this disclosure that everything that I'm about to say, it is not advice on investing. I'm not going to tell you which coins you should invest in or shouldn't invest in. Ultimately, that's up to you. It's no different than if you're going to look at buying something on the stock market. You need to do your own due diligence and figure out what it is that you want to buy. I'm not going to give you recommendation. And the simple fact of the matter is that buying crypto is, in a lot of ways, it's like buying stocks. You're basically gambling. And yes, it may be a better form of gambling. Hopefully you can make some returns on it, but there's also a lot of people that lose their asses on this stuff. So what I'm going to cover today is the security aspect. So hopefully you don't lose your bankroll through something like a scam, because you could lose thousands, tens of thousands. There's probably been plenty of people that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars through crypto scams. And so I'm going to cover the stuff that you really need to know to help protect yourself against these kind of issues. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, the first thing I'm going to cover here is that when it comes to security principles for crypto, they're not really any different than basically anything else in cybersecurity. And when I say that, I mean that from a mindset perspective, and I also mean that from like using some common sense. So things like you always need to keep your computer, your phone up to date. You need to have a firewall that's set up properly, antivirus if you're on a platform that needs it, like Windows. You need to make sure that you're using two-factor authentication, all that kind of stuff. I've talked about this stuff extensively on my channel, so I'm not going to cover that. What I'm going to do is cover the more in-depth stuff as it relates to using cryptocurrency and wallets and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and cover some of the different wallet types. And then I'm also going to go over some more of the details on what you need to know about wallets and transaction privacy and all that kind of stuff. So there's different platforms that you can do and different types of wallets. So you have things like your desktop wallets, mobile web, hardware, paper, and then hot versus cold. So we'll go over that here in just a second. So first of all, you have things like Exodus. Now, another disclosure, I'm not sponsored. I'm not an affiliate of any of these platforms. I'm just giving them as an example. I don't take money from any of them. I'm just here to deliver some info for everyone. So you have things like Exodus. Now, Exodus is an app that you can get on desktop and mobile. There's a lot of other ones. Again, do your due diligence just because I recommend it, or just because I use it as an example. I'm not recommending it. Just because I use it as an example doesn't mean that you actually should use it. Then there's things like Coinbase. Coinbase is an example. So Exodus is an example of mobile and desktop. Coinbase is an example of a web wallet, like an exchange. So there's other ones like Binance is another commonly used one. Now there's some considerations you need to keep in mind when you're going to use something like a exchange, which I will go over shortly. Then you have your hardware wallet types. Now, an example of this is something like the Ledger Nano. These are really cool devices. If you are new to cryptocurrency and you're looking at getting into it and investing, buying stuff, using it transactionally, all that kind of stuff, I would definitely recommend, this is one thing I would recommend, at least take a look at Ledger Nano and what they have available. I think these are pretty slick. And then an example of something on paper. Now, you could do paper and like you could look at it from multiple aspects. You could look at it from, well, as far as the wallet types, it can generate you a wallet. It's pretty cool. You should go check it out. I like the way that it works. There's considerations that you have to make for all of these. But BitAddress, if you want to do the old-fashioned pen and paper method, BitAddress is a pretty good one that's gives you some good security. So let's cover some aspects as it relates to keys. So you have your public and your private keys. See if I can make this line look a little better. So your public keys is your location on the blockchain. So let me show you what I mean when I say that. So right now, I'm on blockchain.com, and you can come in. It's a pretty good website. There's a lot of stuff you can look at in here. But one of the things you can see here is that this unconfirmed Bitcoin transactions, and this is being updated in real time. And you can see like all the transaction amounts. I mean, this is the other point that I'm going to make. When people say things like, oh, well, cryptocurrency is just a fad, it's a scam, whatever. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be a big part of how the future works. And this is regardless of what people think, whether or not they want this to be the case. It's going to be huge. It's already pretty big, but it's going to become absolutely massive. Especially once CBDCs, regardless of what people think of them. I'm not going to get into the whole debate and in ethics and all that kind of stuff regarding CBDCs. This stuff is going to become a mainstay of the economy, and here in another 5 to 10 years, you can either learn this stuff now, is the way that I look at it, or you're going to have to learn it then. But so you can see this transaction list coming up here. Let's just open up this one. This is one that I just pulled out from the ether there all of a sudden. This was a $240,000 transaction. And when you're looking at these, you can see there's tons of money that's being moved on cryptocurrency, and this is just Bitcoin. This doesn't include things like Ethereum. Now, there's something I'm going to show as it relates to what I was talking about. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. So you have so these are your public addresses, and these can come in different forms, but this is just an example of basically a public address. Now, the thing that I need to mention, because I cover a lot of security and privacy stuff on my channel, is you have to look at things from when it comes to security, you have to look at things like from a privacy and security perspective. So when it comes to transacting with Bitcoin, Ethereum, basically just about anything out there, is the blockchain, which is what there's a lot of technical stuff to this, so I'm trying to keep it simple and boiled down. If you're already well versed in crypto and blockchain and Web3, you probably don't really even need to watch this video. This is geared more towards people that are looking to get into this stuff. There's a lot of details that go into the blockchain, but to keep it simple, it's basically a ledger. It keeps track of all transactions. So everything that you buy, so let's say you pay someone else in Bitcoin for a product or service. If someone ever finds out your wallet, if they can associate your wallet to your real identity, they will see how you spend all of your money forever. Now, obviously, you could go set up different hardware or different wallets and all that kind of stuff. There's a whole lot of details that go into this. I'm not going to get into all of it because it's going to make this video super long. But basically, you have no privacy when it comes to transactions. The one exception to that, the major exception right now, is something called Monero. Now, I could make a video talking about this all on itself. I'm not going to cover it in depth on this one, but just know that basically all of your transactions are going to be publicly recorded on the blockchain for everyone to see. So as it relates to your public keys, this is what people will see when they take a look at the blockchain. They're taking a look at transactions. Then you have your private key. This is stuff that only you should know. This is unique to your account, and it's basically admin access. If anyone ever got access to your private key, they can do whatever they want with your money. It will all be, I can assure you, if you ever give out your private key to someone, your money is going to be gone. There are so many piece of shit scammers out there that are looking to just be dishonest and go through life not trying to make an honest buck, that they will do anything possible to scam anyone else out of money. We're going to cover this stuff here a little bit more in the social engineering when I talk about the specific social engineering stuff you need to watch out when it comes to crypto. But like I said, this is like admin access to your account. If you ever lose your private key, if you get malware on your computer and someone pulls your private key, or the exchange that you're using gets hacked, or you lose a piece of paper that has your private key on it, or like your seed phrase or anything like that, your stuff is gone. It's going to be gone. And if you do lose it, maybe you would have it memorized or saved somewhere else where you can pull stuff out and move it right away. But if you lose this stuff, it's gone. So don't ever give out your private key. Under no circumstances should you ever give your private key out. Now, let's talk about the next really important aspect to this. This is something, if you've been in crypto for a while, I'm sure you can relate to this. If you're going to choose a web wallet, meaning you're going to use an exchange of some sort, like let's say Binance or Coinbase, there's others out there. I'm sure people can think of some recent news articles of certain people and certain arrests being made and millions and billions of dollars being lost. Make sure you do your due diligence and pick a reputable exchange. Now, Coinbase is one that I personally think it's a solid option just because it's a publicly traded company inside of the United States. There's a lot of scrutiny on the platform. It's ran like it should be ran. There's other exchanges out there though that, let's just say, some of them don't operate by as tight of rules. Now, it's safe to say that every exchange out there doesn't want to get hacked. They don't want to lose their stuff because that will destroy their business. Then they have to cover losses. Then there's lawsuits, all that kind of stuff. But there's also been exchanges, again, news articles, you can go Google this stuff, of things that were not reputable. And the things that you need to watch out for as it relates to crypto exchanges, think of things like YouTube videos. So in a recent high profile issue with a cryptocurrency exchange was, as this exchange was being marketed and built up, there was a lot of YouTube videos being made about it, and there were a lot of these influencers that were making videos about how this was such a great exchange, and all these people were recommending it. And you have to think, when you're going to watch a video and there's a influencer, okay, someone that let's say they're an entertainer and all they know is just very surface level stuff about how the world works. I'm not going to give examples. I'm sure people can think of some people that this would apply to. And then they all of a sudden start talking to you about great investing opportunities and a good platform to invest on and all this kind of stuff. You have to look at it through the lens of, okay, what are they gaining and what do I stand to gain or lose? An example of this, you could just go watch CoffeeZilla's channel. He does like investigations exposing scam artists, and he's covered things like some of these crypto exchanges that were set up and being used to scam people. But you have to look out for what you're going to use for an exchange. You don't want to pick just anyone out there because it's recommended by your favorite influencer. I think a lot of these, the word is being thrown around way too much now, and I think a lot of these influencers they're total shitbirds, and they're only looking out for themselves, and they look at it from the perspective of, well, what can I gain and screw my audience, and I'm all for myself. So again, do your due diligence. Make sure you pick something good. Don't pick something just because it's recommended by someone else. Next thing, single point of failure. So I talk about IT aspects on my channel a lot. And one of the things, like in the IT world, for example, a single point of failure would be something like a business or an organization or something like that, if there was a single point of failure, it would destroy everything else. So an example of that would be, let's say for some reason malware hits the system or ransomware, or computers just get screwed up somehow and there's a single backup, but let's say the backup for some reason goes bad. And if that's the only backup that you have, well, the entire organization is screwed. There's going to be millions of dollars of losses likely. It would just be a bad time all around. So a single point of failure as it relates to crypto is, let's say you have all of your money inside of an exchange. Here's another thing that I need to include real quick. When you're looking at an exchange, this is really important. There's a phrase in the world of crypto that goes, not your keys, not your crypto. So if you have your money tied up on an exchange, technically it is not your money. At any time, they could restrict trading. You could have access to your money restricted. And make no mistake, if you have $30,000 of crypto, you need to treat it just like you have $30,000 sitting in a bank account or $30,000 sitting on the stock exchange. You want to have as tight of control of stuff as you possibly can. But the thing is when you're putting your trust in another platform, again, they can restrict trading at any time. We've seen this kind of stuff happen before. You could, for some reason, you could have your stuff prevented from being pulled out. or there could be an exchange hack. You could lose all of your money through a hack. It's absolutely no fault of yours. So keep in mind that not your keys, not your crypto. So make sure that when you're picking a platform that you're thinking about your strategy ahead of time. If you're going to be doing any sort of investing in crypto, okay, if I'm going to so let's say you have a certain amount of your bankroll dedicated to, okay, I'm going to be investing this and trading on this stuff, but then I'm going to have this stuff over here and let's say a cold wallet. We'll get more into that we'll get more into that later on. So going back to the single point of failure. So let's say you have everything on a web exchange and something happens to the exchange, like recent stuff that was going on, or let's say you have a wallet on your hard drive. Let me give you another example of some bad stuff that can happen here. So I've seen these articles going around for quite a while now about this guy that threw away a hard drive with Bitcoins, and then he was offering people a reward to dig it up. I think I started seeing these articles at least a few years ago, and then when I was looking for this article, I was seeing stuff even just as recently as like last year talking about this, and this guy is still trying to get this hard drive. Now, because he threw his hard drive out with all of this stuff on it, I mean, people could come up with other stuff here, like, well, you should have been a little more careful about what you're throwing away and all that kind of stuff. That's neither here nor there. That was a single point of failure. Because he threw that hard drive out, that was a single point of failure, and he lost a fortune. He could have retired on that, bought a nice house, disappeared off the face of the earth, and no one would have ever heard from him again, and he would have lived a great life. So be careful about the single point of failure, because if you put everything into one source, there's a potential that if something goes wrong, that you could lose everything. Now, I think I've covered that stuff enough. Let's get to one of the most important parts of this entire video. If you're going to watch anything on this video, this is going to be probably the most important part you can watch, which is in regards to social engineering. Social engineering, people on my channel people come to my channel for a lot of cybersecurity stuff. I'm going to tell you, social engineering is by far the easiest way to hack someone, the easiest way for an organization to get hacked and taken down, or specific people to fall victim to some sort of a phishing scam or something like that and lose tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Social engineering is way easier because if a person understands how to apply the social engineering tactics and methods, then they can get access to stuff a hell of a lot easier than trying to write a piece of malware to do that job. So let's go over this. Let me give you a few specific examples of things that you need to look for, and you'll see these a lot on social media platforms. This is stuff that you really have to make sure you are watching out for. So this is an example, and these are also context dependent on the platform. These scammers used to be really bad, and some of them still are, but a lot of them have gotten a lot better at tricking people into doing what they want them to do. Now, here's an example of something that's evolved a lot over the last couple of years from when I first started seeing these comments pop up. So there's this comment here that says, "This used to be one of my most watched channels. Sadly, it's been a while since I visited, and it has been a very rough year. I'm experiencing one of the toughest phases of my life. I've lost a fortune to investing in emerging companies, hopeful for a turnaround." Now, on face value, this looks to be a legit comment. What you'd see in a lot in the past, and kind of what I still see every now and then, is things like, oh, well, this person's a great investor, and then there's all these other robots that chime in, and then they start making comments to make it look legitimate, to trick people into going to certain websites or Googling stuff and clicking on stuff they shouldn't. Here's one of the things that you know is a dead giveaway of a scam. Because in this next one, it talks about it's the market, don't leave during the bear, you'll be fine. You should have opted for a suitable AI platform or traded with Gary Joe Wild. Okay, no one asked who the hell Gary Joe Wild is or why anyone should invest with him. It's just something that these piece of shit scammers come up with, again, to try to trick people. They're trying to social engineer people on these social media comments and these social media platforms by making stuff like this. And they try to make it look legitimate. Like they'll put these pictures up here with these profiles to make it look real. They'll try and use real people's names, and I've seen some pretty crappy names come up on here. And here was a continuation of it. Some of these people didn't realize it was a scam. And I looked at some of these handles here because I figured, well, maybe these are real people based on the way they were writing. And like this person here was a real person. Says you didn't lose a fortune investing in emerging companies. What a great way to tell yourself you're not responsible for bad thinking. You are. It's impossible to lose a fortune on anything unless you're inept or incompetent or don't trust those to tell you what's going on when you don't know something. You did it. And there were there was one or two other people in here. I looked at their handles and it looked real. But that's a tactic that they're using. They create these comments now to bait people and turn it into this huge thread that's going to draw attention because people are like, oh, 260 upvotes and 18 replies. What's going on here? And then they'll start reading in here and then they're like, oh, okay, Gary Joe Wild. Let me go Google him. And then they'll click on some weird ass looking link. They'll put in like the login details, or they'll give bank details, or they might give up a seed phrase, or they'll install malware on their computer, and boom, they've lost their whole bankroll. They have to start at zero, which for a lot of people can take years. And some people, if they lose their bankroll, some people can never recover from it. Their life is basically fucked. Now, let's look at one other example. This is specific towards Twitter. I've been seeing a lot of this stuff, a lot of this garbage show up on Twitter. There's other examples out there like Instagram and whatnot. Again, just pay attention to stuff. Here's the other thing. If someone ever slips into your DMs and they're like, hey, I've got this great investing opportunity, or do you want to make some money? And especially if it comes from someone that looks like they're an influencer or that they have some sort of a social media channel, basically like 99.9% of the time, it's just going to be some bullshit scam that you can just completely ignore. And you should also report the profile when you come across stuff like that so they can get banned so other people don't end up falling prey to it, because these people are getting really good and they're getting really advanced with this stuff. They're figuring out that social engineering it's way easier to go about all this stuff rather than it is to try to infect people with viruses. So here's this other example. Now, let me explain the context to this tweet. So I follow someone in the crypto sphere called Richard Hart. He's the guy that made the Hex coin, and he also just recently released Pulse Chain. I like his work. I like that the guy is so blunt. Even if I don't agree 100% with everything that he says, I follow his stuff. I like to read his tweets. He gives a lot of good insight. So what happens is on Twitter, you can see who other people are subscribed to. Now there's bot accounts and there's scammers that pay attention to who subscribes to these big influencers. So like people in the crypto space or people in the business space or whatever. And so these people pull these user handles off of that list. So then what happens here is you have stuff like this going on here. LOL, I just copied the pass. Hex dropped a pass and now you may be eligible for it. Look here, thanks to Hex, we can now enjoy their exclusive benefits and perks. They said that we'll be rewarded with Hex. And of course, this is one of the things that absolutely drives me nuts about Twitter, because the blue check marks used to mean that a person had to be like at least somewhat legitimate, and like at least on YouTube, you still have to basically prove that there's some sort of realness, so to speak. I mean, you can still be scammed by people with millions of influencers, but the problem is now that anyone can go on Twitter and get a blue check mark, is that stuff like this happens because people will look at this and think, oh, this is legit. They've got a blue check mark. They're saying that I can get some free money. And these people social engineered this because Richard Hart, when he was doing Pulse Chain, he did an airdrop. And so people think, oh, okay, well, I can go ahead and get some more free crypto here. This is awesome. And they link to this original tweet here. Okay, it's a retweet. And so they at all of these people, and including my name, which was in here. And then when you look at this, it's like, okay, well, Richard Hart does not have anything to do with this BS, this Hex Foundation. This is a fake account. This is a fake link here, this pass-hex.com. When you log in there and give them your details, all of your shit in your wallet is going to be gone. They will take everything from you. And these people are getting really sneaky about this stuff. And I actually see Richard Hart send out quite a bit of tweets talking about, hey, this is a fake account, this is a scam account, please mass report this so we can get it taken down. Every time one of these dickheads comes up here and includes me in one of these mass tweets here, tagging all these people, is I just report it right away. And just so Twitter will take these assholes down so they can't scam people. But the thing is there's a lot of people, and this isn't meant as an attack on anyone, but people that aren't really well versed in computers can easily fall for this stuff because it looks legitimate. And if you took a first glance at something like that, especially that tweet right there, because I've had examples of other tweets and I don't screenshot them, I only screenshot that one. I've had some tweets come up that looked really legitimate, but the thing is they're not. And so you got to really pay attention for that stuff. So let's talk about real quick what's going to be coming up next. So I mentioned briefly at the start of the video of hot versus cold wallets. This is a topic all in and of itself. I can't believe I've already gone on for almost half an hour at this point. This is why I break these videos down and break them into smaller chunks, because I can literally talk about stuff for hours on end. If I were to pick several big topics, I'd have videos that were like 2 or 3 hours long. So that's why I break everything down. So I'm going to cover hot versus cold wallets next. That's really important, and something that if you've made it this far in the video, shout out to you, because I tend to go on some really long rabbit holes sometimes. But knowing the difference between hot and cold wallets is important because that does relate to cybersecurity. And it also will help you build context of, okay, well, what are the pros and cons of a hot wallet? What are the pros and cons of a cold wallet? When should I use each? How should I use them? Again, I'm not giving you investing advice. This is stuff that you need to do your due diligence on. I'm going to keep repeating that. I'm not affiliated or sponsored. I'm just here to give you the reality of how this stuff works. I'm not making any money off of you clicking on any links or going to any providers or anything like that. So I'm going to cover that in the next video. And I'm going to be doing a pretty extensive video series sometime in the future talking about Web3, talking about blockchain. This stuff is really important. Whether or not people like it, this stuff is going to take over in day-to-day lives. We're still a ways out from it. I'd say we're probably like another at least 5 years, but probably more realistically about 10 years before Web3, as it's being called, is really in full swing. And we see a massive shift in how things work. I think by that point, again, I'm not getting into the politics of this stuff, but in 5 to 10 years, I think we will see CBDCs become basically a very real thing. I think we'll see a massive bull run here in the somewhat near future. Again, on crypto, this stuff is going to take off. It's going to blow up. Then there's things like smart contracts. I'm going to be breaking down smart contracts in another video. Smart contracts are going to become a huge part of how day-to-day business is being conducted, or it's going to be conducted in people's lives. This stuff is still being kind of worked out a lot behind the scenes. It's not quite there yet, but I am tracking it pretty closely because I'm not going to be one of those people that ends up way behind the curve when all this stuff takes off. And that's why I'm making these videos, to get you educated now. Even if you're not doing anything actionable when it comes to cryptocurrency or Web3 or the blockchain, if you're aware of it now and you start building up your knowledge of how this stuff works, when it does start taking off and become a real thing and really starts getting into the full swing and we see it implemented a lot in society, then you'll at least have a better understanding rather than waiting until the last minute when all this stuff really starts to roll out. And then you end up with people who are like, oh, what is this stuff? I don't know how this works. So again, I've got a big video series that's going to be coming up on crypto. I'm still going to be making the cybersecurity stuff. I'm also going to keep continuing with doing the stuff like the best college, like I made the video about the best college degrees for cybersecurity. I'm going to keep making videos like that, answering people's questions, all that kind of stuff. So don't worry, I'm not giving up on one topic. I'm just kind of adding on to the base. And I'm also doing this as the other reason I'm doing this. I'll just wrap this video up here real quick for the 2 people that are probably left still watching this video. I'm building out a learning platform. If you're new to the channel, what I recommend is that you go check out kenharris.io. Right now, I only have it's a somewhat basic course on cybersecurity for home users. If you took all the content and wrote it out in a Word document, which is what I was doing, and then pasting it, I've got about, I think it's close to 100 pages, maybe even about 120 by now, of different things like OPSEC, social engineering, firewalls, Windows security, Linux security, all that kind of stuff. I'm building out an online learning platform where people can come and learn about this stuff because I'm going to have stuff on cybersecurity. I'm going to have stuff on systems administration. I'm going to have stuff on cryptocurrency. I'm going to have stuff on career development. I'm building out this massive platform for people to be able to come and learn tech stuff. And I know there's other people out there that are already doing it. I'm putting my own flavor on this stuff because, well, because I want to and because I like to. I like making videos. Anyway, I've gone on long enough now. If you made it to the end, you should drop a comment down below. Let me know at the 30-minute call out mark if you made it that far. Shout out to you, you're a trooper, and I appreciate the support as always. With all that being said, I will see you on Monday.